Wow, welcome everyone. We have just released the PesaFlux Python SDK, and now you can access it everywhere and integrate your M-PESA into your apps and websites within 3 lines of code. Now let's get started to see how it works. First of all, you just open your terminal on your Windows machine or another operating system and run the following command. Just pip install PesaFlux, hit enter and wait for the installation. Once it has been installed, let's go ahead and create a folder. Let's move to the desktop and let me call it a new folder. Let's call it M-PESA, like that. Then open our VS Code and open that folder there. You can use the directory here and just type cmd. Then code space dot to open the folder in VS Code. Now in that folder, we're going to create a file and call it test.python.py. Taking some time, just wait a minute. Now in that file, just import the PesaFlux that we have just installed from the pip library. Now just type from PesaFlux import PesaFlux. Let's confirm. Like that. Then now let's start with the SDK push. Very simple. So the first time, just call the constructor. You can say client, that's the object that we are using, be equals to PesaFlux. Then pass your API key there and your account email, like that, as a string. You can see here the API key is a string and the email is a string. Then from that, to initiate the SDK push, we'll just tell the client to call the SDK push function. So it will be client.SDK push, and then you can see the parameters, that is the amount int, the MSISDN, that is the phone number, a string, and the reference as a string. Let's say amount as 1. I can use my phone number there, 01 120 769 41, and the reference maybe 42 05 23 39, like that. Then you can save the response into a variable. Let's call it response, like that. And let's go ahead and even print the response on the screen. Now print the response, like that. Now the most important thing here is the API key and the email. For testing purposes, let's use the default API key and email. For testing, just come to the PesaFlux website, get started, log into your account, then navigate to where we have the sandbox testing here, then copy the API key, paste it there, then also copy the email address and paste it here. And now it's time to test. Let me share the screen of my phone that you can see the output. Now just run the file here. You can see it says, "Would you like to pay one to PesaFlux Express for account number this 4205?" Also, you can see the response from the API here. You can see the response code is 0 success 200 a string. You can see the transaction request ID like that. Very simple, very simple. Now let's go ahead and test the transaction status. The transaction status. Now from the response, let me expand the screen. From the response, you can see we have the data, we have the transaction request ID. It's the one that we use while calling the transaction status function. You can test by saying maybe status be equals to client dot transaction status like that. That's a function that must receive the transaction request ID, a string like that. So you can pass a string like that, or just pass the variable by reference. Now to pass the variable, you must save it first from this side. Just say that transaction request ID be the first response from the SDK push, response.get the string from the response, that is the transaction request ID like that. Now you'll be checking the transaction status of this SDK request here like that. You can now test. Share my screen again. You can see the SDK push in my phone. You can also see the SDK response there. Now let's copy the request ID for this transaction like that, and then let's paste it here. And now let's print the status for that transaction. Let's first comment this one, and now see the status for that transaction. Let's run it again. Okay, there's a mistake there. Sorry for that. You can see that the result code is 200, and the description is that the transaction was cancelled by the user, and therefore it was not successful. Now let's try to make a successful one. May uncomment that one. And let's now make a successful one. Let me use the amount as 2. I'll share my screen as well. We run the file. can see the amount is 2. Let me enter my PIN in the darkness. And now let's copy the request ID, this one. Comment this part for now. Then paste the request ID here. And now let's check the status for the transaction. Can as well print it. As you can see, it says that the result code is success and the status is completed. You can see the M-PESA receipt there, the account reference, amount, phone number, date, and so on. Yes, now that's how you integrate our PesaFlux API using Python SDK. Within less than 10 lines of code, you are done. And you have the integration done in your website or app. Thank you for watching. Let's meet in the next videos.